Next up on the team battle, we have a Dimension Police mirror match. Callum is taking on Khonsu. There's noise coming from outside of my room. Hopefully it's not coming up in the recording. Callum starts off by riding Dylion, which is a limit remover for the Dimension Robos, so it gives you the ability to... Oh, and this is an exec mirror because Khonsu does the same thing. But it gives you the ability to use limit break abilities like Daikaiser's Break Ride and Dayusha's and the Great Dayusha's limit break of +1 critical early on, which if he's using a Legion deck really helps. Callum gives the critical to the Vanguard. On grade 2, Khonsu is trying to use Commander Laurel. Never mind, no he's not. Callum no guards, he has no fear of Commander Laurel doing anything. If I was Callum, if I had Dibarret in hand, I would actually try using the skill. Because Dibarret's ability, you can counterblast one, put into the soul. A Dimension Robo Vanguard gains 4,000 power, but it also gains the ability to retire a unit when it hits. You can actually use the retire Commander Laurel. Of course, that's provided that he has the card in hand. He might not. By that merit, that... Oh, there it is. So is he gonna... Yes, he is. He's gonna counterblast and put it into the soul. So that's 20,000. It gains 2,000 just for attacking, so it's 22 plus the boost, 27,000 to the Vanguard. And if it hits, Laurel gets retired. He can't guard. No triggers on the checks. But now Laurel is gonna die. So without Commander Laurel, Khonsu's idea of using it to gain hand or anything he was going to use it for are now gone. When you have units like that, you usually don't want to use them in that way, and he calls Dayusha to the rear guard. That's the original Dayusha, not the Great Dayusha, which means this deck is meant to use Break Ride. Apparently he wants to stride. And he uses the stride to get the starter into the soul. And now Daikaiser loses 5k. Actually a very smart way to get 3 Dimension Robos into the soul. Of course it took a counterblast too, and it also takes a soul blast of 1, so you don't gain any soul from it. For some reason I thought that you did. I think that's why it has a soul blast cost of 1, because they took things like Great Dayusha and whatnot into mind. Because if it was just counterblast 1, put 1 into the soul, then it would actually be extremely powerful. And that was not enough to guard that. Khonsu figures it out late, just like Zahn did in the last game. Callum drops the extra guard, because he didn't want to be at 4 damage yet. And now it's his turn to use Stride, except he's using um, Miracle Element out Atmos. First attack is at the rear guard, which is blocked. Second attack, he's not using the counter blast, he's just going 31 to the Vanguard, and it's perfect blocked. Critical trigger. And the true Daikaiser. Is the Great Daikaiser and the True Daikaiser. Great Daikaiser is the Cross Ride, and True Daikaiser is the Legion. Khonsu strides for Atmos as well. He's using the Counter Blast though, which makes sense because he has no booster. Callum no guards, and no triggers appear. Also Callum heals. Khonsu would end his turn. Khonsu would do well to end his turn, but he's attacking. Callum has no reason to guard because everyone realizes that gained 3k, right? No? Alright. So Callum strides another Outmost. He goes 12 to the Vanguard. No guards the Vanguard. Callum heals again. These heals are good for Callum just for the fact that he's not really ready to do Break Ride. Meanwhile, Khonsu could Legion at any time, but he's choosing not to, most likely because of the fact that if he did, he wouldn't gain any of the skills because he doesn't have 3-dimension Robos in the Soul. The 3-dimension Robos in the Soul is how the Great Daikaiser gains Guard Break, and it's also how the Great Daikaiser gains critical, and it's how the Great Daiyusha gains critical, and the Great Daiyusha's critical is how Great Daikaiser gains Guard Break. So without 3-dimension Robos in the Soul, you don't get any of Daikaiser's abilities. When I saw the draw trigger go onto the field before we found out that he was trying to do Stride, I thought that he was going to use the starter's ability to put 4-dimension Robos into the Soul and get another Great Daikaiser, just so he could have Legion skills. Which would have been a horrible waste of resources, by the way, if he chose to do that. I don't think Callum is counting the Soul because he's going out of his way to not give his opponent limit break when he doesn't realize that it's not an issue for him because he doesn't have enough Soul. Of course, he can always rewrite another True Daikaiser and then have 3 in Soul, but that's in the event that he realizes that he can do that. Or more to say, it's in the event he thinks to do that. Calls Commander Laurel. He keeps doing Stride out of order. So if Callum doesn't guard this, then Khonsu gets 6 drive checks this turn. So, and as a result, he guards immediately. Stand trigger appears, but doesn't mean anything. And that stand trigger appears also doesn't mean anything. With no rears to stand, the stand trigger literally did nothing. Which is unfortunate because it was a double stand. Using stands with Commander Laurel is kind of a strange thing, just because you usually want the Vanguard to attack first, so stand triggers aren't going to help much unless you have a behind Vanguard and you use the stand to stand up the booster. But Khonsu did not have a behind Vanguard unit, so it just didn't do anything. A Dimension Police deck has 6 face-up G units between the two of them. Or more to say, a mirror match of Dimension Police has 6 strides face-up between the two of them. And here comes number 7. Callum is using a bunch of true Great Kaisers for his strides. I wonder if he's going to have enough to do Break Ride. Or more to say, I wonder if he's going to have one for Break Ride. Callum is going for Laurel. He's going for Laurel hard. 31 to the rear. And it's perfect guarded. So now his 2 9k rear columns don't really mean anything. Callum might have seriously shot himself in the foot by doing that. And I think he again doesn't realize that his opponent can't get his skills. Well, now he can. Because of the re-ride. And he's doing Legion. So from this, Great Daikaiser does have 2 critical, but it doesn't get the guard break ability because Great Daiyusha won't have 2 critical. The only way he can get that now is if he has a limit remover in hand. And he does not. So this is 2 critical, but the guard will not be broken. Also, keep in mind guard break actually does take a counterblast 1 for the Legion skill. So even if he did have 4 damage, if all of them were flipped, he wouldn't be able to do it anyway. Callum goes straight into the battle phase. And Khonsu no guards. He's taking a big risk. Callum makes sure because it is a really big risk. Callum can double critical and end it here. And even if he doesn't, he's getting 4 drive checks from this. Heal trigger. Commander Laurel activates. And that's a 2 to pass. Critical. If Callum gets 1 more critical, it ends the entire match. And he doesn't. Unfortunately, Daikaiser before Break Ride doesn't get guard break. So 22 at the Vanguard. Once again, it does have 2 critical. $15 to the Vanguard. Callum blocks. He and then 10k to a rear. Heal trigger goes to the drop zone. If he was gonna do that, he should have attacked the draw. Stride once again. Callum is actually running low on deck. Uses the skill Counterblast 2. Put 1 into the drop. All the front row lose power. Also Soul Blast 1, but now everything just lost 4k. And for those wondering why he didn't use a more powerful unit, it was because since that was die battle, it now has the ability to, if it's soul blasted from the soul, it can actually give the Vanguard 3000 power. So first check is a draw trigger, second is Die Kaiser, and third is a critical. So keep in mind that even the draw trigger column can hit 14-7. And also keep in mind that Die Dragon is going to hit for 17. Callum goes for the rear guards instead of the Vanguard. And now Limit Break is active anyway, because Limit Remover. Callum might not have a choice but to take this. Not because he doesn't have guard, mind you, but because he needs to be at 4 damage in order to end this game. And it's become painfully obvious that his opponent is not going to just give him that. No triggers, no grade 3s. And neither of the other sides are powerful enough to hit the Vanguard, so he goes for the rear and ends his turn. A part of me feels like Callum should have taken the Vanguard just to get his damage up, and then just guarded the second Vanguard attack. Because with only 4 cards left in his entire deck, he has to make a real power play in order to end this match. I mean, don't get me wrong, there is a way, depending on... He rides, and he's gonna do Legion. He doesn't have Break Ride, which means it doesn't have 3 critical. It only has 2. And as a result of that, he's adding critical triggers back into the deck. He's gonna try to win the match with the critical trigger. But how many grade 3s does he have out of deck right now? 2 in the Vanguard circle, 1 in the soul. So 3, 4 for the rear guard. 5, 6, 7, 9. So he has 9 out of deck. He probably runs 10 overall, which means he only has 1 left out of 7 cards. So that's 29. Perfect guarded. No grade 3s. Actually, never mind. He doesn't have guard break yet. I completely forgot what I had said earlier, that in order to have guard break, he has to have a certain number of... he has to have 4 damage. Callum has to think really hard about if he can guard this. If he can't guard this at all, then he actually loses here. Because Commander Laurel is still on the field. So that's a 2 pass. And that's a no pass. No triggers. I mean, no grade 3s, but a trigger. And the other 2 columns are actually strong enough to hit. And Callum does not have guard. This could end the game right here. Callum needs triggers in order to save himself. But there's a very high chance he's going to get one because he did put 3 criticals back. Didn't get any of them in the checks. And he's attacking with the 2 critical side first. So he attacks the rear with the last attack. If he had attacked with the side that didn't have the critical first, he actually would have won the match. But it doesn't matter anymore because Callum draws, and now he only has 2 cards in deck. He can't attack with the Vanguard. And he has no way of winning the match otherwise because his opponent only has 3 damage. He's attacking. His opponent no guards. Critical trigger. And critical trigger. But those are the last 2 cards in his deck. So unfortunately it's over at that. Good games to both sides. Really close match. If I had to say one thing that could have been done better, Callum, you should have taken a risk and hit and let the Vanguard hit once just to get to 4 damage. Because by not doing that, you actually forced yourself into a situation where you deck out because you did too many strides. Good game. Moving on to the next match.